We're back and stronger than ever. TPI Composites is bringing jobs back to Iowa, building the future of clean energy with the power of wind. Wind powers the world. And here in Iowa, it powers growth, jobs, innovation, and opportunity for generations to come. When we build here, we fuel something bigger, a cleaner future, a stronger workforce, a legacy that will last. TPI Composites. We're back, Iowa, powering the world.
Murph and Andy, proudly presented by Ramsey Subaru and BMW of Des Moines. Live and on demand across Iowa everywhere. From the Channel Seed Studios. This is Murph and Andy. Murph and Andy. Connected by Cellular Advantage.
It is Murph and Andy on a Monday. Sports and more live on Iowa everywhere alongside Andy Fales and AD. I'm Keith Murphy, and Andy, I'm still riding high on the Friday experience with all the listeners and viewers out there, those who could make it, and the sponsors. Just a wonderful night. One of the best professional nights, which was also a recreational fun night I've ever had.
I agree. It was so much fun. We were over at the Irish in West Des Moines, as we've been talking about. We had a completely packed house. I got there about 10 minutes to 6 on Friday night. Didn't start till 7. Oh my God. And I was just getting things set up, and there were already people there. And I went over and I was like, "Are you guys on the chocolate walk?" Because that was going on over there too. And they're like, "No, we're here for the Iowa Everywhere party." I said, "Well, it doesn't start till 7. And they said, "Yeah, I know. We wanted to get a table, though." It's like, all right, well, that's great. So they were there early, and I was one of the last ones to leave, which would have been, 12:30 or so. And it felt like I was there for 2 or 3 hours at the most. It was a whirlwind. It
did fly by.
It did. It flew by, and there were so many different people there. So many people. You're really random people too. It was so, but they were all listeners, friends, fans of the show or one of our shows. What in the world is going on in some of these pictures? Oh, jeez.
This is why you like and subscribe on YouTube here, or watch on Facebook or X. The visual element of this makes it better. But I was reminded in conversations Friday night, there are still many people who listen as they drive or download a podcast and don't see any of the visuals. So it works both ways. We do try to keep in mind that you can't always see what we're talking about. So we try to describe it. But yes, there are some visuals here that tell a lot about that night.
Well, we had a Capture booth brought their selfie stand over, and it was really nice. Tiffany Barlow, who we've worked with for years and know well. She's great. She brought over, she has a little side business of this Capture booth selfie stand. She brought it over and got it all set up for us, and it was a big hit. It was like almost too big a hit. As I was looking at some of those pictures later at night, I was like wishing she had cut us off a little bit. Okay, that's enough. Posed with the Chris Hassel cut out enough times, taking it away, but that added a lot to the party. We just had such a cross section of Iowa. Oh my gosh.
It was awesome. And one of the many impressions
that's Tiff right there, right?
It is. Okay. It is. One of the many impressions I had is I don't think Chris Hassel could have had a bigger impact if he had actually been there. The cardboard cutout was kind of the star of the show, especially because it was about 5'4". So AD, I don't know if you did that on purpose, but it was outstanding that it was a short cardboard cutout. One of the first things I did, I found a guy who was 6'9".
All right, we're into the pictures that definitely we could have done without it toward the end of the end.
No, these are the best pictures. These are the good ones.
There's Aiden and his nice girlfriend. That was one of the other cool. Ainsley. Yeah, right. One of the other cool things about the party is that we all work together. We communicate every day, but we don't see each other all that often. And we did at the wow. Oh, this is the Luminary video.
We have video too. Yeah, it's
holy smokes! Wow. There's Keith Murphy.
There's Andy Fales.
Yeah, look at that. It was elbow to elbow. There's Matt Van Winkle, I believe. Is that? No, maybe it's not.
That wasn't Matt. That is AD and Jake Brand.
Yeah.
And Chad Lystico.
Yeah, that's right. We had, all of our people, of course, but there were so many other people there that I didn't specifically invite them, but they came anyway, and which is great because it was, of course, open to everybody. But some of these people drove a long way to be at this party.
They did. I have a good example of that, Andy. I was talking toward the end of the night when I probably should have left before this because it hit Jenny and I at some point. We got here shortly after 6 and it's midnight. This could be adding up. And I can tell you the next morning it did add up when we Ubered home. But we were talking to a gentleman from Garner, and he and 3 of his friends got a hotel across the street from the Irish and drove down just to go to this party and then walked to the hotel, stayed the night, and went back to Garner. And that kind of loyalty just really touched me. And the whole night was about that. I mean, sponsors, viewers, listeners, just the loyalty that they have for our show or Two Guys or other shows. And I don't know, at this point in my career where I'm clearly on the back nine, just to be involved in something like this, that's because it's not just us, it's the people. We all feel like we're in it together.
Yeah.
Especially as across the country, everybody is aware, including all of us who work at WHO 13, that media is in a really bad place right now, and longtime veterans are being laid off and pushed out, and weather is being done from other states for local weather. And in Amarillo, Texas, they just got rid of their entire sports department this past week. They're going to go without sports. I mean, it's happening everywhere, and people are aware of that, and they're embracing local media and what Chris Williams started here. And not to get too sentimental about it, but it just means a lot to me, and I really appreciate the way people showed up, especially considering how many people are fighting flus and colds right now.
Yeah, there were quite a few that texted or called and said, "Hey, I was going to make it, and I really wanted to, but I'm just too sick." We appreciate them doing that for the rest of us, but there was such a long list of people that said that. I feel like we need to do this again. We need to talk about doing this in the summer.
We may need to find a bigger place.
Yeah, our big deck outside where we could, kind of all gather and just have plenty of space there. We will, and then of course we want Chris Hassel to actually be there. Yeah, not his cutout. Yeah. I do have his cutout in the room here.
You could auction that for charity at this point.
Well, I feel like I need to keep it because this may happen again. I mean, Chris does have a very busy schedule and he lives in Florida, so it may happen again, and we don't want to have Andrew make that twice.
I can make it shorter.
Yeah, Andrew. Yeah. One of the things
it's like 5'9".
Andy, it's less. It's shorter than that because I'm a little over 5'10", and it's like Jenny's height. I'd say it's 5'2". It's Lady Gaga height. One of the things I learned here, and we're new at this, and everybody pitched in and was understanding. And one of the things I wish I had done as it pertains to AD is people tend to be so polite. They don't want to infringe into a space they're not supposed to be. it took a while for people to see like, oh, the selfie stand, everybody can do that. I do wish I'd gone over to the DJ booth and grabbed a mic and told everybody, hey, if you want to buy the Iowa Everywhere merch, Andrew's up there with a table. Because the people, I did overhear people like, oh, I didn't even know this was up here. Or I wasn't aware it was for sale. I thought it was for people who worked there. We should have made that kind of thing more clear, but overall just couldn't have gone better.
Yeah, if we had done it perfectly the first time, there'd be no reason to do it again.
Yeah,
we'll
so that's
again.
a big reason to have a second one, so you can do all those things over again. It was so crowded in there, you couldn't see like the signs that we worked so hard on, the drink special signs, the here's how to find Iowa Everywhere signs with the QR codes. But it was so crowded, you couldn't see those signs. I did grab the signs though.
Do you remember the Friday Quickie poll? Which king are you more excited to see, the Liquor King or Carson King? Well, they were both there, and the Liquor King edged Carson King in the vote. And the Liquor King saw that and donated $100 to the Carson King Foundation because the Liquor King said Carson King should have won this vote. And I had my photo taken with the two kings at some point at the selfie booth. And I just thought that was such a cool moment. There's Gilly and the Liquor King, and
there's the Liquor King.
The Liquor King had his outfit.
He did.
That coat was something else. Now he needs
a crown.
Maybe that's going too far. Maybe that's why he decided not to do that, just the coat. But it was tight in there. That coat was warm, I'm sure, but he kept it on. He's the Liquor King.
Yeah, when it got so crowded you couldn't move, the temperature went up like 15 degrees just because there were so many people in there. But again, we just appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you for all those who came. And I know most of you couldn't make it for whatever reason. But it's nice to be able to share this with you, and hopefully, even if you weren't there, you've enjoyed some of the photos. And if you have those photos from the selfie booth, feel free to share them, as long as there were a couple I didn't include in the reel. And I will just say that you were involved in one of them, Andy, and your wife was involved in another. Those I didn't put, like, I think you thought there was a photo or two that shouldn't have been in there. Then I definitely am glad I didn't put the ones in that I chose to hold back.
Well, we were all just happy. Right,
and you couldn't even talk at the end of the night. And then AD pulled
that's
the Irish
because
I
was hoarse. I was watching my drinks. I did eat a full dinner before I went down there. The Grimaldi's pizza was absolutely smashed. I got one piece.
There were 16 boxes, but people were taking them to their tables. The entire box.
Because I went over there, I was like, there's only like 9 boxes here.
We need to double that order.
They
next
didn't
time.
bring enough pizzas, but then I heard and I remembered that I saw people like just taking a whole box to their table, which is fine. It was for everybody, and we all knew that we were gonna need to eat.
I saw AD Saturday, and I was like, Irish goodbye, AD, and he said, yeah, we're at the Irish. That's a loophole.
Exactly.
He
we're
is
at the Irish.
Well, he had done that if we were at the Mexican.
Yes, I would have. Yes,
Guest House Tavern and Oyster in West Des Moines sets the table for sports and more. It was a pleasure to talk to some of the key people from Guest House Tavern and Oyster at the party. Coming up on the show, Cyclone Grit, Revved Ferrari, Championship Dogs. Guest House Tavern, Northwest inspired Midwestern hospitality. High or low since last show?
Presented by Wealth Charter Retirement Planning and Tax.
Have another party so Tim Hawkins can be there with his crew from Wealth Charter, but they were vacationing somewhere warm, so that's an excused absence. But
we'll write a note.
Yeah, he's back to the grind now. This is their busy season over at Wealth Charter, doing retirement and taxes for everybody, and they're great people to call. All right, I'm going to go back to this one last time, and I'm going to stop, at least until Wednesday. I just like this. I took this video at the end of the night. Hang on a second, Andrew. Don't play it yet. So we saw a few pictures of our friends David and Sheena Isaacson, who are a blast, and they're really fun people. But
you about to unveil a video from the end of the night does make me a little nervous.
No, it's good. It's like people are like, if anybody asks me how fun was that party, I will say Well, there were people literally dancing. They were so happy to be at that party. And then I'm going to yeah, literally dancing.
Well, maybe more than dancing.
Yeah, David's back was in traction the next day after this. But yeah,
awesome.
I mean, people were dancing. It was just a really fun time.
Yeah, it sure was. I'm also going high here on a Monday, and mine was my Uber ride from the fan appreciation party. We're among the last to leave. And Jenny and I go out to the Uber ride, and the Uber driver's name is Tim. And he does a double take, looks at me, kind of excited to see me. And I look, and he's listening to Friday's Murph and Andy show as I get into the Uber. And I thought, that is so cool. And just to stretch out my high here, Dress for Success Saturday night with the executive director of Dress for Success, Judy Downs. That's Judy right there, Andrew's wife, of course. This is an event that empowers women for success with everything from clothes to interviews to just helping train them to go out into the business world and make their lives better. And it was the first gala, as AD says, and we just had a wonderful time there. We had a great time. We met so many nice people, and I was just so proud of Judy, and AD took this great photo. Look at him. Has he ever looked cooler, Andy?
That's just putting out the vibe.
Oh my gosh, that's the ladies' man.
Look at that.
Look at AD holding that cocktail.
You needed that needed to be the Courvoisier.
Man, he looks great there. And we bid on a lot of stuff. And who do you think provided all of the liquor that was donated for the auction?
The Liquor King?
Jim the Liquor King. So there was this incredible bourbon set. I mean, not just a set. It was like all kinds of stuff. And we bid on that, didn't get it. Then we had this huge Jefferson's barrel, one of the ones that gets sloshed in ocean.
Yeah. Aged in the in the hold
aged
of
in
the
the
whaling
barrel.
vessel.
So we bid on that, bid on a bunch of stuff, Andy, a bunch of stuff that I wanted. Iowa Wild package. I was trying to get one bit, but Jenny's controlling the bidding here, and she gets in some bidding wars. Well, wouldn't you know it? None of the stuff I wanted, we were able to win the bidding war that only Jenny was aware of how high we were going or what we were bidding. But what we did win was the wine wagon. And when I say win, I mean, we won the auction that Jenny got in a bidding war for. So here in the wine wagon, there are 8 bottles of wine, glasses, wine openers, books. I mean, anything you could want.
Oh my goodness!
Look at that wine wagon, and it wasn't cheap, but it's for a good cause. It's for a good cause.
You tell yourself that, right? You tell yourself that, and
you've been in this
that's
world
true.
before.
Sure, yeah, it just helps you buy it a little more.
Yeah,
Jenny.
So we get the wine wagon, and then we have to get it to the car. State wrestling's going on, so we're not. And our car is way down the street here. That's me pulling
That's gonna run somebody
wagon
over.
No,
stop.
Watch this.
Stop.
Watch.
There's a stop sign. Oh.
I obey the law. I stopped with.
You got a lot of momentum there.
The wine wagon.
Those wagons are helpful for tailgating and going to kids' sports and stuff.
Carrying equipment for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The photographers at WHO 13 would love those.
One of the things that was cool, AD, you were part of this. We go down to the Hilton lobby after the Dress for Success gala is over, and there could not have been 2 more different gatherings of people. There are boys and their families, and some of the boys are still like in singlets covered with their warm-up gear or their warm-up outfit. They've just come over from wrestling, there were many who could not have been more casually dressed, as you can expect. They've been to state wrestling. So there's at least 50 wrestling families and teams there in the lobby. And then there's all the people from Dress for Success. And Jenny is wearing sparkly sneakers. And if somebody asks her, why are you wearing sneakers? She tells them she's had bunion surgery. But she just wants to be comfortable. But she hasn't had bunion surgery. It's misleading. Andy.
Well, that makes people stop asking. It does. Okay. So.
Hey.
Make them go talk to somebody else.
Interact on YouTube. Email Murph_Andy at iowaeverywhere.com. On X, it's Murph_Andy. It's all powered by the Cellular Advantage, proudly representing U.S. Cellular since 1993, with 35 regional locations, and the 16E at $599 from iPhone, currently available. Let's get the buzz.
The Buzz. Brought to you by Logier Heating and Cooling.
Probably a better time to call Logier Heating and Cooling this week than last week. What a difference a week makes.
Yeah, they are catching up. John was going to be there at the party on Friday. He's goose hunting, or he was goose hunting down in my home state of Missouri over the weekend. But he's back, and I imagine he's slammed this week. But yeah, give him a call and get all tuned up, because winter is not finished yet. You may think it's finished.
It's not finished. Buzz is frustration with officials in 3 big marquee games involving the Big Four this weekend. There were calls that impacted the games, though human error from officials is rarely the actual reason for a win or a loss. And I think we all know that fan bases think it's, for the large part, it's okay to criticize the officials when you feel like you absolutely have to, but you get so annoyed when your rival does it because they're just whiners who can't accept defeat and have to find an excuse. That's the way people think of it. But let's start with Iowa State at Houston. No Curtis Jones, no Keyshawn Gilbert. Those are the top 2 scorers for Iowa State. Houston is sold out. It's a tough place to play. Tickets are going for $1,000. Iowa State is down 12 at the half. And I sent a text message to Mark Freund and John Sears. I was like, I think Iowa State's going to end up losing us by 15 or 20.
Yeah.
And they go on a 13-0 run led by Taman Lipsey in the second half. Walk-on Cade Kelderman, walk-on from Waukee, is playing in this game. And before we go to the big call here, Andy, this is like grit defined. This is culture for Iowa State to go in there and not just mail it in.
Yeah, because Houston's playing really well.
Yeah.
And they have, not just Cryer, but a number of their players are having really good games. They're just locking it down defensively. Momcilovic is just nowhere to be found in the first half.
I don't think he scored in the first half.
No, he didn't. So they are just, this game is looking like it doesn't matter if Jones and Gilbert are there. There was just no way. And I think most of us thought that Iowa State was going to, probably lose this game, because Houston is really good. It's in their home building. And, we have enough respect for Kelvin Sampson as a great coach.
Right.
And you forget all of that's a basketball school through and through. That's a knowledgeable fan base, crowd. Just a really hard place to go and win a really important game. They just started doing the little things. Lipsey gets his hand on a couple of passes. Momcilovic comes alive, hits a shot. Heisey is kicking it in.
Mm-hmm.
Jefferson with one of the best passes that I think I've ever seen a Cyclone player make. There's just little things start adding up. And it kind of just took me by surprise. All of a sudden, they're like, Iowa State's on a 9-0 run. And you're like, just a few minutes ago, you're just like, you just get one stop. Get one stop, because it didn't seem like they were getting any. And you're right. I thought it was going to be a 25, 26-point advantage at some point. I was just like, man, they're going to run away in this game. But they just started doing the little things, and before you know it, it's a one-possession game.
Yeah, they get it down to 1 point with a little over 8 minutes to go, and it's 2 points with 4.5 minutes to play. at Houston, and then the big call happens after that 13-0 run. Nate Heisey steps into the cylinder, and it's a bad call. I mean, it is a bad call. If that's a foul, you can't play good defense, because he's straight up and down just playing good defense at that point. I know the fans thought that, but I can tell you, I mean, feel like objectively that was a bad call.
Yeah, because if that's going to be a foul that's called consistently, all the offensive player with the ball has to do is make contact with the defender every time, and then you get that foul. And the other thing that really just boggles your mind and just doesn't make sense in the spirit of the game, in the spirit of officiating the game, is they go to review the call, because it's a foul on, and who's the Houston player with the ball at that point? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
It's a foul on him, and he hit Heisey in the face with his elbow, and they're reviewing it to see if it's a flagrant. So they're looking at reviewing that foul, and not only did they not give him a flagrant, I think most people are watching that like, okay, it's not a flagrant. He's just trying to move the ball around.
Right.
But not only did they not give it a flagrant, they completely changed the foul to one on Heisey, which you're just like, whoa, that's not why you're supposed to review a call. In this case, that's not why you're supposed to review the call. They just completely changed the spots and stripes of the situation. And you're just like, that's not what you're supposed to do here.
And this could be one of those cases where somebody really knows officiating, like Brent Bloom, will contact us and say, well, actually, by definition,
you can do that.
The official did make the correct cylinder call. Well, then if that's the correct cylinder call, the cylinder call needs to be changed. Just like the tuck rule. I mean, technically in that Raiders-Patriots game, once we all understood what the tuck rule was, they did call that correctly. But your own eyes see it and think like, well, then the rule needs to be changed. That's a stupid rule. And they did change the rule. And if that's the case here, they need to change it. But Houston goes on to win by 9, which is a little deceptive. It was a tight game into the final couple of minutes, but it was a 2-point game with under 5 minutes to play. Now to Drake at UNI. UNI, red hot, at home, had won 6 straight. Drake trying to wrap up a share of the Missouri Valley Conference Championship. Most fans in the McLeod Center for a basketball game in a decade since number 1 North Carolina was there. Great atmosphere. Props to the Panther fans for making this awesome. And then end of regulation, UNI up 2. Mitch Mascari shoots a 3. He misses it, but he's fouled. A Panther player goes flying through the air and hits Mascari in the legs. Mascari is an 88% free throw shooter, and he misses the first free throw. So he has to make the next 2. He does to force overtime. But let's start with this foul here. It is a foul. I mean, Mascari has to be able to land without having a guy fly in and hit him. Now, this is one of those ones, Andy, that comes into you can't call it at that point of the game.
Yeah.
Well, it is a foul, so shouldn't you call it at that point of the game? Most of this is seen through the eyes of your fandom, but I thought it was a foul.
It's seen through the eyes of your fandom. Yeah, it is. As I try to step back objectively, I mean, I've never liked that call. I mean, he's gotten the ball away cleanly. Does he have to be able to land? Is that big a deal?
That is the way it's written.
Yeah, but so it's a huge point of the game to make that call. It is.
It is, undoubtedly.
And I am somebody that thinks that officials should change the way they call the game depending on where they are in the game.
Situational.
Yeah, I mean, this game was officiated so tightly that the officials effectively made themselves part of the game, which is the opposite of what they're set out to try to do at the start of each game. You don't want the official to be the story. They don't want to be the story. But if they're calling it that tight all the way, and then they don't in that situation, well, then that's just uneven officiating, and that's not good either. So I will say when he missed that first free throw, I thought there was no chance in hell he was going to hit the next two.
So much pressure on those 2 free throws. My goodness.
He did, and there were other fouls in this game that people are upset about. But for the most part, UNI did not play well. They didn't shoot well. They were horrible from 3-point range. They didn't deserve to win that game. They came out with a really slow start. They had this huge crowd, and Drake, led pretty comfortably through most of the first half, and then Drake started the second half well. And then it comes all the way down, and you and I believe even not shooting well, not rebounding well on either end. They bleed it all the way down, take that lead, and then they couldn't hold it. Mm. So I mean, it was a very, very impressive win for Drake, and they keep doing this. I mean, their best games have been the biggest games this year, like the biggest, seemingly toughest situations. I think I've talked about this on Friday. I mean, this has been the most impressive thing all season to me about this team, other than the fact that, the obvious story, that they're good at all this year, right, is the fact that they're going to Kansas City and beating Kansas State. They're going to these tournament games early on where they don't even know what they're doing at this point. You wouldn't think. We didn't even know their names. They're beating Vanderbilt. They're beating Miami. And then they're going to Bradley and winning. They're going to UNI and winning. I mean, the games where it seems like, okay, there's a ceiling here and they've got their head against it. Nope. They have won those games. The games they have lost have been games that you wouldn't think they were going to lose. Home against Murray State, home against Bradley, at UIC, who's not very good. It's this team. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that says about the postseason, but if you're a Drake fan, I mean, you certainly like it.
You do, and Drake is kind of in the opposite situation that Indiana State was in last year in pursuit of an at-large bid if they, for some reason, don't win the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. Last year, Indiana State had the net ranking, but they didn't have the quad 1 and quad 2 wins. This year, Drake has the quad 1 and quad 2 wins to be considered for that at-large berth, but their net ranking is kind of low. But we have time to see how that plays out. So let's get to the overtime here where Mascari walks off the court, and he's so upset with himself because he's a really good free throw shooter, and he knocks all 3 down. Drake wins right there. But they go to overtime because he makes 2 out of 3. And then Titan Anderson, UNI's best player in this game, fouls out on a double foul call way away from the ball. He gets tangled up. And then Drake goes on to win on an absolute dagger by Bennett Sturtz, who is should be the unanimous choice for Larry Bird trophy winner this year, conference player of the year. He's been so great. It's been so great that other schools are undoubtedly going to start whispering in his ear that, come here, we'll give you a big bag of money. Ben Jacobson, UNI's head coach, did not like the call on Titan Anderson.
Well, class, you're going to get to hear me say something that I don't say very often. It might be the worst call I've seen in my 19 years as a head coach. I think it is. And class, since you're new and you're not in here very often, you would be able to, I don't talk about this very much, do I? You've covered us. Because of the impact it had on the game. Like, look, there were 7 or 8 calls that Ben's going to feel like were the wrong call, and there's 7 or 8 of them that I feel like were the wrong call, but they didn't decide the game. We've got our best player in 2 plays in a row, 23 bumps him first, and he doesn't do anything the possession before that. And he come down and 23 bumps him first again, and he waits to call a double foul. I think it's the worst call I've seen in my 19 years.
Wow. Okay. First of all, I should tell you that the class in that video from Mark Woodley at KWWL, Ben Jacobson is talking to a journalism class that's sitting in on the press conference. Andy, I attach a lot of credibility here to what Ben Jacobson is saying. This is not a guy who goes into the press conference and whines about officiating or makes excuses. And even in the setup to how bad he thought this call was, he points out that this happens every game. Ben McCollum has some calls I'm sure he disagrees with. Ben Jacobson has some calls he thinks went away from him, but he just thinks it's terrible to make this call in that spot.
Yeah, and I agree. I totally agree. I think Drake fans, by and large, will agree with this also. I mean, this is another one of those things where either it's a foul all the time or it's a foul none of the time, or how do you feel about an official calling things differently in different situations? I hate the fact that this is the call in this situation. People are not going to remember that when they go forward with this game. No. This is just Drake winning at UNI in overtime. But if you're UNI and you have played that poorly and managed to climb all the way back in, and you've earned the right to win this game in overtime, and you have a call like that go against you and kind of help deep six your chances, that's not fair. You just feel like it's not fair, and I totally understand how upset they are about this.
Drake does win at least a share of the Missouri Valley Conference Championship, can clinch it Wednesday night at Evansville. It's the first regular season championship in 5 years. That may surprise some of you. 25-3 ties the best start in Drake history. That is the most wins by a first-year head coach in program history. It's incredible. Again, there are 5 new starters. 4 were playing Division II last year. Head coach in his first year. We've said it many times. It is just staggering. The final disputed call here will go to women's basketball, where number 3 UCLA, now number 2 UCLA, at Iowa. Cooper DeJean in the house, and the Hawkeyes take a 9-point lead in front of the Super Bowl champion, but could not hold it. Missed too many shots. Then at crunch time, Lucy Olson is called for blocking. Now, UCLA had what looked like an illegal screen, a wide base. The player, you're supposed to keep your feet shoulder width or in, clearly extending the leg. Olson trips over it, then falls into the player. So you have to call the moving illegal screen at that point, or you have to call the blocking. Blocking was the call. And then Iowa has just a disastrous final shot possession where Addie O'Grady shoots a 3. She hadn't shot a 3 since dirt, and airballs that. Yeah, great atmosphere, though, for the Iowa game. And Jan Jensen, who I think by now has proven why she's the head coach, I liked her fire in the post game. She's like, I'm tired of these close calls. We should win a game like this.
But still really complimentary of her team.
Yep.
And, kind of keeping things in perspective. I mean, they almost beat USC and UCLA, ranked in the top 5 on their home court in the same season.
UCLA has one loss this entire season.
I mean, that's a pretty excusable loss. But, it's really too bad to have things come. You don't want to talk about an official. I mean, so often it sounds like you because we know how it sounds. It sounds like you're just making excuses. But sometimes that's the problem with complaining about officials. And we do it so much that we're crying. It sounds like we're crying wolf when we actually have a situation that was affected by a bad call.
AD, was your family there? Were your parents there at the game?
Yeah, my parents were there. Yep. Yeah. And yeah, it's, this team, games like that, I think, show that this team is capable of like making a run in March, but also that they're capable of getting beat at any time, right? Mm-hmm. They've had so many of those late game situations where they're just unable to hold on to a lead or to make free throws. But it's been cool to see them in those situations. And again, you just forget that Caitlin Clark was such a big time player in those moments. You lose that, and you lose a lot.
Yeah, there's no replacing her, but they are still entertaining the crowds, and that was a great atmosphere. The men would love to have the kind of atmosphere that the women had there. Let's get a quickie poll from WCI Pools and Spas. It's in Ames and Irvindale.
When is it okay to publicly complain about officiating? Anytime it's warranted, egregiously bad calls, or never, it's just a bad look.
there are some people who think it always looks bad when you whine about calls, but I tend to be with the majority here. If it's an egregiously bad call, I don't know that you look like you're whining, but I do appreciate the coaches who say, it didn't win or lose the game on that one call. There's just like the players and coaches make mistakes, the officials do too. These are human beings.
And there's a right and wrong way to do it, right? I mean, the people that swear up and down there's a conspiracy against their team, or,
Right.
I looked up this ref, he got a vacation house in Okoboji. So, of course, he's going to be an Iowa fan. I mean, you just like, come on, man. That is what makes that like ruins the entire institution of complaining about referees for everybody else when you have that kind of stuff thrown in there. When you're saying, I think if you're saying you don't like an official having such an effect on a game in a close situation, or being so tight with the whistle that they change the pace of the game, they're affecting which players you get to see in the game, that kind of stuff. I feel like those can be legitimate gripes. But when you start claiming, that these guys are ganging up again on you, they got a grudge against you, then I think you push it way too far.
Liddell Betts is leaving Iowa for the Giants. This is a loss for the Iowa football program. Betts is a strong recruiter in the South, which is, of course, is important, and he helped develop Caleb Johnson. It's kind of late to be taking a job, and the Giants have a coaching staff that's wobbling right now, so it might be a little bit of a surprise, but Betts will go to the NFC East, where he played, when he played about 10 years or so in the NFL.
Yeah. And he's also one of those guys that I hear Hawkeye fans from time to time bring up as a possible replacement for Kirk Ferentz, where they'll say, we'll be talking about when Ferentz would retire and how he might leave early. And one of the situations I've heard is, if he somehow were, if he were to be able to kind of tap Liddell Betts as the head coach, then maybe Phil Parker would stay and Ferentz could leave and still kind of feel like, things are in place at Iowa the way he likes them to be at place. I've heard people mention that before. So this would seem to, I don't know if it totally removes the possibility, but it would seem to.
Second leading rusher in Iowa history, and in today's time flies nugget, he's 45 or 46 years old. Adrian Wojnarowski is auctioning off 9 of his Woj Bomb iPhones to benefit St. Bonaventure NIL. Now, he took a job as what is essentially the general manager of St. Bonaventure basketball, so that he could have more time with his family and not actually shower and have relations with his wife while also checking his phone the whole time. So this story is real, and it takes me to a throwback to the Woj photo bomb. Andy, anytime you're around Woj, you try to get a Woj photo bomb. NIL, this is just one more sign. The guy's auctioning off his iPhones to try to create money to go after a guy like Bennett Sturts.
I know that there is some value in used iPhones, when you turn them in. But
you're not a big bidder on this?
No, I mean, nobody's going to use that. That's only because there's still some life left in it. And if you were bidding on Woj's used iPhone, it wouldn't be so, you could give it to your 13-year-old daughter so she has a phone. You were going to put this basically used up piece of junk somewhere special in your house. I don't feel like this is worth a lot of money. Maybe it is.
Frame it maybe in a.
Has he got a permanent screenshot there of his Woj bomb on the screen? I guess you have to keep it plugged in all the time.
You could, let me see the prices these are going for so far. High offer $350, $5. It's not a lot of money.
$525.
If you had a sports bar that attracted a lot of NBA fans, like in a big NBA market. Maybe you could frame it and put it up as the phone that received the Woj bomb. I don't know.
People buy weird stuff.
Yeah, they
sometimes.
do. Now here's Tom Izzo on who starts.
You play real good, you start. You don't play as good, you work your way back in. It's the American way, except America has gotten soft. But that is the American way. That's the way it works. And so I apologize to nobody for that.
Confluence is the official beer of Murph and Andy. Confluence, where good things come together.
Had a bunch of those on Friday.
Oh, I need to
those
pause
are good.
here and not maybe go a few days. Let my body start functioning properly again.
Those were right on the end of the rail. It was very easy. It was the nearest
Yeah.
one. Like I'd order a beer and be like, I want that Confluence Des Moines IPA right there.
I was fine when I was having the Confluence. Then at the end of the night, I started hanging out with Jim the Liquor King, and
He was buying
Next
you
thing
whiskey
you know-
sours, right?
I
Yeah,
know,
whiskey sours.
yeah.
How'd you like those?
well, I woke up with a bitter look on my face and a headache.
Do you have a hangover?
Yes. Yes, I did. Let's get some more.
But wait, there's more. From Either Or Eatery and Patio.
Scott Seelix was there from Either Or. And
Got
Lure
to talk
Brewing.
to him, yeah.
Yeah, I just spent quite a bit of time with him on Friday. It was really good to talk to him. What I like about him is, and really a whole bunch of our different sponsors, is they may seem to have competing businesses, but they're all friends.
Yeah, no, I like that too. There's room for everybody.
Scott Seelix, who owns Either Or and Lure Brewing, and John Martin, who owns Confluence, and Pete Faber, who owns Guest House and also owns Barntown Brewing, are all really good friends. They're
Awesome.
They're just they are not all petty competitive with each other. They were genuinely glad to see each other. It was good to see them. Either Or, you will find them at 6222 Grand Avenue, right at the
They would
edge
like
of
to
Des Moines and
have-
West Des Moines.
They'd like to have the show out there for a nice patio day in the spring. That sounds good to me.
We are going to do that. We're going to do a Friday patio tour with Murph and Andy as we kind of welcome in the nicer weather. We'll do the shows live from some of these patios around Des Moines. We'll let you know more on that later. Today is World Bartender Day, and it just so happens. All right, so I'm going to go back to the well one more time for Friday night. I lied. One more time. Just so happens I ran into a guy at the party on Friday that I used to bartend with at Spaghetti Works. This is Brian. Yeah, Brian and I have not seen each other in more than 30 years.
Wow,
And
that's cool.
And he comes up and he's like, "Hey," he goes, "When were you bartending at Spaghetti Works? I listened to the show and I hear you mention that." I was like, 93, 94. And he's like, "I was there with you." I looked at him in the face and I was like, "Brian." And he and I had traded a bunch of fun old stories about working down there and, you know, all the people that like don't believe that was the place, you know,
It was.
back in the day.
For comedy.
Ford Avenue. Yeah. Spaghetti Works was
Yeah.
a big deal. The patio that we had out there.
Our kids love that salad bar at Spaghetti Works.
Yeah. Well, they used to have, we had a great big bar, and he and I were just kind of bemoaning, you know, having to make those giant fish bowls of frozen
Sugar.
strawberry daiquiris and margaritas. Oh my God. Yeah. It was all over the place. But it was good to see Brian on Friday and on World Bartender Day today. It's a good time for that story. Wow. The weather is incredible today. Did you take a peep at this forecast? Look at Friday.
Incredible, yeah.
60 degrees.
This is cruel because I will be out of the state Friday. You don't want to leave February in Iowa and have it be 60 here. You want to leave Iowa in February and have it be minus 20, and then you feel better about it.
Yeah, you wanted to leave last week.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
the week to be here, but it looks great. The snow it may be gone by the end of today. There's just little patches out there. It's kind of a muddy mess though. I'm sure everybody's seen Pope Francis is in critical condition. And you know, we wish him well. He's in his late 80s. He's quite old. It looks like a kidney failure he has got there, which is something that my dad had toward the end of his life, and that's something you don't really come back from. But I've always found it funny when, the popes are often, well, it seems like they're always old from the beginning. And then we've seen many of them die, I guess they all die in office. They don't leave office for the most part. I guess it's happened.
Yeah,
the last one, right?
Yeah, recently gave it up. But yeah.
But usually they die or they're at least sick in office. And you'll hear the Vatican will say, he's dying, or, please pray for the Pope. And, so that in many cases, so that, his soul will go to heaven. And I always think, he's the Pope. And somehow he needs like a reference from me. Like God is on the fence and saying, he's the Pope, but.
Let's hear from Andy first.
I'll tell you what, I was on the fence about this guy, but Andy in West Des Moines really offered up a winner. And I've said, okay, he could make it to heaven. I think it'll be okay. Yeah, I if the Pope, I think the Pope is that's first ballot, right? Doesn't need.
It feels like you've moved into a lock status there, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't be sure how these
people
things
want to
work.
make sure, that kind of stuff. I guess, yeah, just may as well overstuff the ballot, I guess. Roberta Flack has passed away, R&B star of the 70s, early 80s. Here is 4.9 seconds of one of her hits.
Killing me softly with his song, killing me softly.
All right, there you go.
Perfect. Yeah,
You
that's the
recognize it?
indelible hit there. She had more hits, but that one is that one is instantly
That's the one I recognize.
recognizable.
That's the one I think of first.
Yeah, I think most people do.
Yeah, it really helped that Lauryn Hill covered that also with the Fugees in the 90s. So it had
Right.
people my age, that's how we know that song, and then kind of reverse engineer back to Roberta Flack.
And that
Good point.
that song has been butchered at karaoke lounges around the world so many times. Lester Holt will be stepping down as the lead anchor of the NBC Nightly News this summer. Still going to do Dateline. He'll still be there. And wow, this is a huge blow to network television, certainly to NBC. Nora O'Donnell, Hoda Kotb, all stepping down recently. We're not going to have that lead anchor star anymore.
No, these guys,
The voice of God.
The women who have done it too, have been household names in this country. But at one point, Walter Cronkite, but even Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather, Peter Jennings, they were like among the most recognizable names in the United States.
And you had
America.
like your one. Like I was always a Peter Jennings guy for some reason. I liked him the most. And so yeah,
and you
had,
probably
like, the guy
said,
you
if
liked.
somebody asked you which program you watched, you probably said Peter Jennings, not ABC World News Tonight.
Exactly.
Because you came to title the show whatever the anchor was.
And when Brian Williams stepped down, it really seemed like, okay, well then NBC is never going to get it back. But Lester Holt stepped right in and advanced the ball. He was better than Brian Williams, I think, and he really has been a star. He's 65 years old, so I guess technically that's retirement age. He is going to keep on going, but man, that really hurts. A bar in Beverly, Massachusetts, which apparently is in the Boston area, had to sanitize their counters after a guy hosed them down.
Hose them down?
Well, he stood up and he whizzed all over the bar. While others were drinking, the unknown man, pictured here, peed all over it and somehow fled and has not yet been caught. Cops are asking for the public's help in identifying him. Anybody know this guy?
I was going to ask AD, is there any chance this is Boston Bobby? Did you ever see him in all those back
Never
and
saw
forth you had?
him. He looks a little too well dressed, maybe, to be Boston Bobby, or at least the Boston Bobby I have in my head.
The one you're picturing?
But
what's this guy
peeing
doing
on
with
a
the
bar
menu?
does sound like the
Is
type
that a
of thing.
menu or is that like a daytime planner or something? What is
Pee
it?
on bar.
This guy does
written
not
in
look
there.
a step away from pissing all over the bar.
The look
there a
on his
line at the
face
bathroom?
indicates that he's up to no good, but I mean, because he's kind of looking around to see if anybody's watching. But he doesn't. Yeah, he's wearing seemed like a kind of a nice jacket.
Glad somebody saw it and didn't just assume it was like a spilled water or something.
Yeah.
Did you know that not only are Crocs a very questionable fashion choice, they're also a risk to your health? Dr. Abdullah Pratt, an emergency medicine physician at the University of Chicago Hospital, says they see Croc-specific injuries at least once a week in the emergency room.
What?
The problem is that the shoes don't provide much traction or any ankle support. So he says people go flying, and so do their Crocs.
Don't medical personnel wear these as much as anyone? Any profession?
They wear like the clogs and stuff, but they're not really, running around. They're just walking around hallways. I think they're talking about people that are, out walking on the ice or something.
Who would do that in Crocs?
Well, their kids probably wearing Crocs to school today.
It might be mine.
With their shorts and no coat.
Man, you just called out your daughter last night for not wearing a coat all last week. Boy, you just got right into Elon.
Apparently, I'm not the only one that feels that way. I've heard from a lot of people saying, amen.
Oh, amen.
Also a common sight in emergency rooms, people who've sliced into their veins while trying to cut avocados and bagels.
This would be something I do.
Hold it with their hand, and then they start cutting. And they either cut too far or they cut all the way around it and forget that their hand is on the other side. Just slice the crap out of their hand. They're bleeding all over the place. YouTuber Levi Kelly has built what he believes to be the world's smallest functional house, measuring just 19.46 square feet. Here it is on the trailer, on this picture, built on a small trailer with a truck axle that can support more weight. This compact home includes a seating area, a fold-down bed, a kitchen with a mini fridge and an electric cooktop, and a sink with a folding tap. Levi spent approximately $4,800 on the project, plans to use the tiny house for camping trips with his family. It also has a shower, which is on the outside. It's on the outside.
Okay.
It's got the 2 solar panels on the roof there. There's one on each side. And I will say, watching these videos is addictive. I clicked on, he's a YouTube star. I clicked on this video when he's building this, and it's pretty ingenious. Now, it still doesn't look like comfortable. He's exactly 5'10", and the bed fits him exactly.
Ooh. That would get a little claustrophobic.
Yeah, it's like a fold-down bed, and he has to climb up to the top, and he can kind of like barely get around the bed and then up there. But he can do it.
I am fascinated by these tiny homes.
Yeah.
This looks like the size of an outhouse.
Yeah, it is. It's probably maybe a little bit bigger than that, but I mean, and he built the whole thing himself. It's really, really kind of cool. It doesn't look very aerodynamic, does it? Pulling this thing down the highway behind your truck seems like it would just blow right off or something, but it's cool. And those are cool videos by Levi Kelly.
Levi.
Finally, from the files of Some Headlines Don't Need Stories, we bring you this. The headline just reads, "Don't stick your head out of a moving train for a selfie." Jeez. In Sri Lanka, again,
oh no,
problems. 53-year-old grandmother Olga Permanova was traveling on the famous Podai-Meniki line when she leaned out of the train to get a shot of herself living her best life.
Oh no.
And that was the last shot of that.
That's not the way you want to go.
You didn't need to hear more about that story, right?
No,
I mean, don't lean out the train window to take a selfie. Do I need to tell you why? And most people will be like, nope. No, I'm good.
Thanks for ending on something so upbeat.
Well, it's kind of a public service announcement. That's your more, everybody.
It is time for Throwdowns.
Throwdowns. It's Throwdowns. Backed by Heartland Tire and Auto.
Heartland Tire and Auto brings us Throwdowns. Ankeny, Waukee, Knoxville, Boone, and Creston. Get your cars there. I'm sure we're ready for another blast of winter at some point. Not this week, but at some point. So now's your kind of time to go get your tires.
As soon as I get back.
Yeah, before it comes.
The wet roads are every bit as hazardous as the snowy ones.
All right, Andy, the NFL Combine is this week. 7 Iowa Hawkeyes will participate. Which of these Hawkeyes would be your number one pick? Let's say you're like starting from scratch. You're building a team. You don't have needs or anything, but which player do you want most on your NFL team?
Well, Caleb Johnson certainly looked good, but if I'm if I'm a general manager and I want the best chance of, my pick succeeding, I'm picking the tight end or the linebacker from Iowa. So I think I will go with Luke Lachey here. He was not the best tight end that we've seen lately at Iowa.
He was underused.
Yeah, he's still an Iowa tight end, and then those guys just work out. Jay Higgins is going to be there too, but I would take Luke Lachey.
I would take Caleb Johnson. I think the return of the running back with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, Caleb Johnson is kind of in that mode. I mean, that run he made against Nebraska was one of the most badass runs I've seen. He like broke, 6-7 tackles in that run, and it was kind of the difference in the game. I think he looks like an NFL running back for 10 years.
I think I'd go with the third guy. I'd go with Jay Higgins, the linebacker. He was just so good and consistent.
Yeah.
And Iowa linebackers usually work out.
That's right. Murph, 5 Iowa State Cyclones are also headed to the Combine. Which of them would be your number one pick?
It would be Jaden Higgins. He is at the top of this list, but he has been, if anything, underrated for the last couple of years at Iowa State. But he's got the size, the speed, the hands. I mean, and he progressed so much at Iowa State. Jalen Knoll would be a guy. I think these guys are both going to be successful, but I would go with Higgins.
I probably would too. Jalen Knoll is tempting with the seems like a little more speed and shiftiness, and smaller receivers can absolutely do well in the NFL. There's so much room for receivers, period, these days. But Higgins would still be my first choice, just kind of based on his build.
All right, Andy, we had a really busy week last week, so we ended up getting takeout multiple times. What takeout makes for the best leftovers?
It is between, I want to say Chinese food, but the rice doesn't ever heat up very well.
Yeah, you really got to get lucky with that rice.
Dries out totally. Sushi is the worst, I feel like. Probably an Italian dish like a baked pasta, like lasagna or cavatelli or something that kind of marinates a little bit more, and you heat that sucker up, and it's just incredible. Damn, I'm hungry for lasagna now. Yeah, lasagna. Give me lasagna.
What I like is that few questions have been as carefully considered.
Yeah,
by
right.
Andy as this leftovers
I'm
question.
hungry.
I mean, he was really thinking about it. It is Chinese food for me. You're right about the rice, but that's not what I love about Chinese food anyway. So I'm getting the chicken and the vegetables and all that and heating it up and love it as much the second time.
Diane says pizza is the best leftover, and she has an argument in that the air fryer has made reheating pizza, like it's changed that whole world.
Yeah,
So
that's the only way to do it, or eat it cold.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's throw downs.
Grimaldi's fan photos. Send your fan photos to Murph_Andy at IowaEverywhere.com. We pick a winner for a $50 gift card each week. It's presented by Grimaldi's Coal Brick Oven Pizzeria in West Des Moines and District at Prairie Trail in Ankeny. What do we have here, AD?
This was our winner a couple of weeks ago, Julie Hartzler and her husband. They went out and used their gift card, got a big old pizza, and then they got some of that cheesecake, which I've had there at Grimaldi's and highly recommend.
Yeah.
Get the dessert. Save room for dessert there. Take some of that pizza home and eat it cold the next day. But save room for dessert.
The pizza got raves. I just had one slice Friday night. We have to double or triple the order, and that was not a short supply.
I got over there, there were all these boxes, and I was like, oh, several of these boxes still have full pizzas, and none of them did. They were all just like standing empty.
16 extra larges gone in like 20 minutes.
I think there was like one pizza, and I got one with pepperoni and something else, and it was by itself. I mean, it was lonely. And
if I had been thinking ahead better, I would have this photo ready to go. But the general manager of Ramsey Subaru, Tyler Van Wielden, his wife Heather, had some kind of custom-made Iowa Everywhere Murph and Andy sweatshirt that said Go Sports on it. And it's one of the photos that's gone by on social media. And I've had several different people ask me where they can get it or how they can get it. So Heather, if you're watching or listening today, or Tyler, please let me know. Or maybe it's one of one and no one else can get it. But I did want to pass along answers to that question. Time now for the Andrew Downs audio drop of the day. We call it the AD Squared.
Yeah, speaking of the party, the game day crew was out there. It was fun to see them. I always see them up in Ankeny when I go to get my testosterone boosting shot every Thursday. But it was cool to see them out of the office and at the party, and we appreciate them. And they're raffling off an NFL jersey, which I don't think we've finished yet. So we'll announce the winner here at some point. But
by the way, one of the leaders of game day, Andy, you remember when he was managing the GNC store, when we had Tony Moyaki and who else was there that day? And Moyaki was Pat Angerer, and we did our radio show there. And Moyaki was wearing shorts that were cut so high, basically his sack was hanging out as he was walking around the GNC. Do you remember that?
They were boxer briefs. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was
no way
a
they
look.
could have pockets. Yeah, on those things.
Last night on Soundoff, a big moment for our guy John Sears.
Welcome to Soundoff. I'm Keith Murphy, and tonight we're happy to make a long overdue announcement. Mr. Soundoff, John Sears, has been elected to the Soundoff Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Keith. It took way too long. I wish my dad had been alive to see this, but better late than never.
We have the banner ready. Can't wait to raise this to the studio rafters.
You are not invited to the ceremony.
It's quite a moment.
It really was.
Apparently, that's a bigger problem than we first thought.
Yeah,
a banner from the wrong end.
How is your Illinois friend doing?
He's doing better, Eric.
Because he wanted everybody fired for that upside down banner.
He thought that Illinois made good pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, he was hot.
He
wanted blood. He wanted everyone fired.
Quickie poll results presented by WCI Pools and Spas.
When is it okay to publicly complain about officiating? Anytime warranted, egregiously bad calls, or never. It's a bad look. 68% of the votes say egregiously bad calls only. 22% of the votes say anytime warranted.
Wow.
And 13% say never. It's a bad look.
It is a bad look, but sometimes you understand people talking about it. You do. The people who make it bad for their particular fan base are the people that anytime they lose, it's the official's fault or the refs or the bad calls. That wears people out. But sometimes a bad call can be worth discussing.
The ones that are like, well, once again,
out to get us.
Big 12 officials just
had
it out for Iowa State. Had it out for Iowa.
Yeah. It's like they're
Ed Hightower again. There he goes.
They're not the same people, but they're similar to the people that say with consistency, I was watching this national broadcast, and man, those CBS announcers are just so anti-Iowa. Or they're just those ESPN announcers, they just are not fair to Iowa State at all. Oh yeah, who do you normally listen to? Well, John Walters and Eric Heft.
Yeah,
but these guys are not fair the way John and Eric are. I think they're against the Cyclones. And
John and Eric are not complaining about that in the cylinder call. Then somehow you want them out.
Yeah, I'm sure they did complain.
I heard they had a lot to say about that.
And should have. They were right about that.
We need that's a good off-season topic. People we want to kick out of sports talk.
Okay.
Kick them out.
All right. You and I will probably be the first voted out. Thank you for being part of Murph and Andy, supporting local media on Iowa everywhere. Please like and subscribe. And nice to have these new graphics out here, too. Nice job. Who's behind those, AD? Is that Eric?
Eric Herman, yeah, for a lot of them. I know Matt Van Winkle and Aiden White also played a big role, so appreciate all their hard work.
Yeah, I love the refresh and just keep moving things forward here. We're back Wednesday. We hope you are too.